Hey there, Evan Nathaniel Grimm. Welcome to my forecast for March 2024. I'm going to explain all the key themes and then the impact on each and every zodiac sign. This is a very important month because we're leading up to eclipse season again. So we have a lunar eclipse in Libra at the end of the month. We also have a Pisces new moon before that. And honestly, some fairly heavy transits. But I'm going to place this all in context so you can activate the highest possible expression of these transits and thrive. So you want to stick around for the key themes right away. So I'm going to share my screen. And again, look at the macro view. Where's the momentum and how is it shifting from the previous month and heading into April even? So you're going to want to kind of get a good frame here. So the title of March, I always like to come up with some sort of thesis or just even highlight sort of key sentence, topic sentence. And I think for March, it was like pretty easy for me to say, well, this is really about finding fulfillment in an alienated world. And so I think there's, again, a silver lining to all of this. So we have this avalanche of Aquarius energy in February, throughout February into early March. And while that can be really, really positive and social and collaborative and futuristic, I mean, we're also seeing the sort of proliferation of technology that is actually, disconnecting us from each other. So I'm seeing people walking around with these glasses that can film everything. I think that's fine. But at the same time, it's sort of a slippery slope. I'm sure we're going to see throughout, this time, video games becoming more realistic, AI becoming more advanced, obviously. And while this is, again, very sort of almost exhilarating for people, it's exciting. And it's like, I want to hook into this. It's like, again, the water is kind of boiling here. And eventually it's like, are we even going to feel the humanity at all? And so again, there's like a dark side, a light side to every zodiac sign. And again, so I don't want to downplay Aquarius or, sort of cast it as this, negative sign, but it's like, in our society, especially with Pluto there, we can experience the extremes of Aquarius, which is sometimes extreme detachment from other people vis-a-vis the technology that's coming out. So the silver lining of Pisces season and even part of Aries season into March is that I think we can kind of find a little bit more, again, like some sense of like spiritual purpose, creative purpose, and even see like what unifies us a little bit more. And Pisces helps us tap into the feelings, the compassion, even the healing. So with all the Aquarius stuff kind of isolating us at times, estranging us from one another, I would like you to think about March as, especially during Pisces season, a time for reconnection, reunification. But I want to talk about the dominant transits. We have a lunar eclipse, March 25th. And let me just quickly go to that actually, because it is, I think this is the climax of the month. So let's just cut to the chase here. The lunar eclipse in Libra is very interesting because the chart ruler, which is Venus, because Venus rules the moon there in Libra, is back into alignment with Saturn. And it was last in an alignment during the solar eclipse in Libra back on October 14th. So if I go back to that chart, which I'll show you right now, so just quickly, with your mind's eye, capture this picture of Saturn Venus conjunct. Go back to October 14th, 2023, Saturn opposite Venus. So Venus had just peaked into Virgo after that long, long retrograde through Leo. And during that south nodal solar eclipse, I think a lot of people went through breakups or just massive changes in their relationships. So if we kind of fast forward to the end of March, it's almost like closure around that a little bit. So I'll start to talk about that throughout the day and throughout the video, but I think that's very telling. That the Venus cycle has sort of, matched up pretty well with these eclipses as the chart ruler, showing us where, reality has kind of sunk into a situation where we suddenly realize, what is really, which of my relationships have long-term potential, which ones are no longer really, foundational to my life. We also have Mars and Venus kind of finishing their passage through Aquarius. So, still getting that electrifying, again, social energy, which I think is great for like group activities. The sun just passing through Pisces will highlight Saturn and Neptune. And the Saturn-Neptune conjunction will not occur in Pisces. It'll happen in Aries, in about a year and a half. But, when we think about because and let me show you that really quick too. So, I just want to be like really interactive in this session today. Just kind of again, showing you the actual astrology. And so technically, right, Neptune and Saturn will conjoin in Aries. So if I jump, it's actually in, February 2026, technically. Even though if I was to go backwards a little bit through that time period, you'd see, you see Saturn and Neptune both in Aries co-present earlier in 2025, which is why I said a year and a half. But exact technical conjunction is not until, 2 years from now. But in theory, it's my point is though, like while it's going through Pisces, we really have with Saturn sweeping in behind where Neptune was going. It's really showing us the consequences of, our sort of delusional activity, delusional behavior, any sort of activities that were based, not grounded in reality, and so let me just sort of explain this. So Neptune went into Pisces in 2011, right? And Neptune and Pisces in its domicile, I think it's given all of us like the capacity to be, elevating ourselves spiritually, creatively, going through an ascension process. But, even though Saturn's been in Sagittarius in the intervening years to kind of check Neptune a little bit, it still hasn't been in Pisces while Neptune's been in Pisces. So with Saturn here, it's kind of showing us where, while the sun's going through in March through the sign of Pisces, I think it's showing us where we have deluded ourselves and where, sort of illusory or deceptive tactics or activities or escapist activities have led us astray. And so I think Pisces season can be, in that sense, actually a little bit heavy. And it can even expose or highlight long-term health issues from exposure to chemicals and toxins, which is Neptune and Pisces, and or chronic health issues coming out of, some random illness you had, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or 2 years ago. So Pisces season during this sort of this transit of Saturn and Neptune through Pisces can always be a little somber and sobering in a way. But so I'll talk about that today. But those are the sort of dominant themes I see. No planetary retrogrades, thank God, although Mercury will enter its pre-shadow. Now, in terms of the ingresses, we have Mercury entering Aries March 9th, and it does enter its pre-shadow phase on March 18th at 15 degrees of Aries, 58 minutes. So Mercury will retrograde in April, I believe April 1st, if I'm not mistaken. So just to confirm that really quick, we have Mercury, April 1st at 27 degrees of Aries. So anyways, there may be some hiccups a little bit in the second half of March with communication, but Venus enters Pisces March 11th. Mars enters Pisces March 22nd. So keep in mind, Mars and Venus are still close-ish together after their conjunction in Aquarius. And the sun enters Aries, of course, the evening of March 19th Pacific time. And then the key aspects. We have Venus square Uranus for the first week, basically, of March. Then we have Mars square Uranus, March 7th-ish to 15th. That's where I'm kind of seeing it as like really playing a role. The sun will conjoin Neptune March 17th. Mercury conjunct the North Node March 18th. Mercury conjunct Chiron March 20th. So really like our healing journey is top of mind there. And then we have Venus conjunct Saturn the 17th through the 25th approximately. We do get though Venus sextile Jupiter, which is nice, March 24th, Venus sextile Uranus, March 28th. And then Venus beginning to conjoin Neptune by the end of the month. So those are, again, dominant transits, ingresses, and aspects. But now for sort of some of the executive trends, as I like to call it, and this is really key. This is where I'm going to give you like really the context of like, how did we get to March and where we're going? So we're back in the throes of eclipse season and building up to it by, again, wading through these kind of deep, murky, mysterious waters of Pisces. And I think there's a continual buzz of Aquarius energy though, during the first 11 days of the month, since Venus is still going to be in Aquarius. But by March 10th, the focus would become centrally, I think, on the Pisces area of your chart for the most part, because there's a new moon in Pisces. And March will illuminate the archetypes of Saturn and Neptune, which I just talked about. So Saturn is scrutinizing our dreams and our fantasies and exposing where and how we've given into delusions since 2011. And so even though Saturn's been in, again, a mutable sign more recently than that, in Sag, back in the mid 2010s, in Pisces, it's directly serving up reality checks. And it may show us the consequences of any toxic habits. So if you were drinking too much 5 years ago, track literally the degree that Neptune was at during that year, during that party era of your life. And once Saturn hits that degree, I mean, you may see some of the cascading impacts of those decisions, the deleterious effects. And so this month could bust through and demystify some illusions in a way, but for some of you, it's like maybe you're giving in to them. So I think by watching this video, obviously you just want to take I think the Saturnian route, because I think we've had enough Neptune energy. And Saturn in Pisces is really serving you well, I think, to kind of like trim the hedges here and be like, let's like not take this too far. Let's not go out of control here. Let's not let these weeds sort of run rampant through the field. You know, we have to kind of like prune these things. So Saturn is kind of can be an aid for you, you know, and so really go through this like month, especially during the Pisces part of March. You know, just go through anything you're like habits, routines, mentalities, and like focus on well-being, you know, and focus on, okay, what is like realistic right now? You know, still ambitious, still dreamy, still visionary, but something I can actually accomplish. And where am I losing time, losing energy, and just giving energy away by helping people who need to help themselves, really, or by giving into escapist tactics or tendencies. Relationships. I know I talk about relationships a lot, and some people complain about that. I'm not really sure why. I think it's actually proof that we live in this alienated world, right? So like I'll make TikToks about relationships, and people are like, I have no one in my life. And like, okay, well, that's a problem, right? So we all need to kind of like, again, not be too tempted by all the conveniences of Aquarius and like holding ourselves up. So relationships, which are always important, are undergoing some daunting tests. Because, you know, like right now, like as I'm filming this video in February, Venus is in Aquarius. So yeah, it's a social time. Go to the full moon party, go to the group events, you know, go to the fair, like whatever, you know, go to the show. This can be a really good time. And you might feel like you don't have to make big decisions on relationships. But Venus is going to realign with Saturn. It's going to form a conjunction just in time for that solar eclipse, or sorry, that lunar eclipse in Libra. And it will mark the conclusion of something that started during the Libra solar eclipse in October. And so back then, Venus just getting into Virgo, right? Forming that opposition with Saturn, which is really begging us to either commit or break up. So now March 25th, we're going to get some closure on that situation. So just to kind of, you know, go back over to that eclipse, which is a lunar penumbral eclipse, you know, we might get closure. So if you had something happen in mid-October, whatever it was, moving, breaking up, or getting together, there's going to be a major change in that situation karmically as this Libra full moon sort of peaks with chart ruler Venus finishing a conjunction with Saturn. So this will either close off some of those relationships for good, or it will revitalize those commitments to either a creative project, a romantic partner, or a business partner, or a close friend. So I don't want to see any comments after this being like, well, I'm not in a relationship. It's like, again, relationships are not with Venus just about romance. Like Venus is our values and the value we place in other people generally. So, but then anyways, Pisces as a sign, which again, I'm focusing a lot on when the sun is in Pisces, but I don't want you to think that March is Pisces season, obviously. We're going to have like during this eclipse, for example, you know, we're in Aries season by then. But you know, Pisces will be a big focus in March. And I think, you know, Pisces pertains to forgiveness. So this time period may require you to forgive someone for a past hurt or challenge. And Pisces can be a gift, again, because it's kind of counterbalancing, I think, the alienating Aquarian energy, which again is seeing all these new tech gadgets coming into the marketplace, and they're really just disconnecting us from each other. So channel your inner Pisces to find the humanity in all of us. And let's not forget, like Chiron and the North Node are still pretty close to each other. So, you know, we're really healing some long-standing wounds and insecurities. And to quote Third Eye Blind, I think this really caps this lyric that I love from the song Motorcycle Drive-By is so indicative of this Chiron North Node conjunction in Aries. I've never been so alone, never been so alive. You know, that was like a really powerful lyric in 1997. It was like the first rock album I bought. And, you know, it just like I heard that song recently in another video, like a podcast, and I was like, you know, that's really Chiron in Aries and with the North Node there. So I think a lot of people are, getting kind of, I think like a lot of you watching this, you have the guts finally to kind of like part ways with someone who is speaking to the unhealed part of yourself. Like, and so if you end up like losing a relationship at the end of March, or you have to walk away from something, I think that it's really it's a gift possibly because it's like showing you that you're strong enough on your own. So I think that lyric really defines this transit. But now to kind of go into the new and full moons a little bit more deeply. So we have a Pisces new moon March 10th, and this is when you want to set intentions because it's a new moon. And I'm calling this new moon sort of this concept of like dreaming bigger, though. This new moon can really activate some incredible creative concepts or projects, and this can be nurtured through group activities because we still have Venus and Mars in Aquarius. So this is where you want to marry the collective energies of Aquarius and Pisces. So yeah, I'm like, participating in groups, but I'm infusing that with some creative ideas, or I'm joining a new spiritual group, like, or working on a film with a bunch of people. Like there is a lot of collaboration here. And if you're not creative, well, then you're lying to yourself. Everyone has creativity, by the way. It's just shut out by probably your parents. So find that inner creativity. I think Pisces is very creative. But again, if you want to pursue more of a healing route, heal through a group, like a mass meditation, that also works. But on a global level, I wonder about sudden cybersecurity threats, especially in the financial sector, because like Mars and Aquarius, I remember like 2 years ago when Mars was in Aquarius, and I made some predictions around some, cybersecurity issues, and then Spotify was down for like 2 hours, and that was actually kind of a big deal. Anyways, in this case, because Mars is squaring Uranus and Taurus is all about, money in a lot of ways and hard assets and, yeah, storage of value. I don't know, with Pluto and Aquarius too, being about like seizing of control through the internet or sort of secretive activities, you have to wonder if around this Pisces new moon, that Mars Uranus square activates some kind of like, unexpected, hack. So that's just something to watch out for. And then like possible demonstrations political activism or activism generally could play a big role because Mars and Aquarius, I really do think stands up for the disenfranchised and has egalitarian sort of notions. And then we'll jump to the eclipse again. I mean, I've already talked about this a little bit, but just to like reiterate, March 25th is an eclipse, lunar penumbral eclipse, and this is called relationship closure, in my opinion, but also casting out illusions to make the right commitments. So the lunar eclipse will illuminate any delusional mindsets, I think, that have propelled bad relationships. And as a south node lunar eclipse, this is ideal for letting go of any bonds that are having a damaging effect on your life. And for others, though, it's an exhilarating push into a new creative or spiritual territory. And again, just like break and bust down those illusions that have, where you've maybe been fantasizing about something or like a creative project or someone without having any foundation under it. And so by like purging some of those maybe not so great relationships, you may attract the right person in the wake of that. So for the Pisces new moon, the key question to ask is like, what is my higher sense of purpose that I can really devote myself to? So again, in this alienated world, the Pisces new moon is a great time to reinvigorate sort of your sense of like, I am divinely aligned, or I am connected to source and I can do something with that inspiration. And then the Libra full moon to me is like really is like, who is on my team? Who is on my side truly? So around that time, you may have revelations that, this person who I thought was my best friend, like maybe isn't showing up for me. And I'm not trying to start a drama. I'm not saying like everyone will break up or everyone will split up. Like, it might actually be a healing time of like my best friend is not showing up, but I confronted them about that with Saturn and Venus. And we like came to some sort of balanced agreement about how we're going to like, be more committed to each other. And it's not just romantic. Or again, if you have a creative project that you're still stuck on, it's like, this is when you I know it's a full moon, so sometimes it's about endings, but like for some of you, it's like maybe this is when you actually commit to making the film or writing the script or writing the song or putting it out there. So I don't want you to think that like the full moon, just because it's an eclipse, like that nothing can happen, nothing big can happen. In fact, big things will happen for you. However, it's just that you can't really set clear intentions around it. I mean, I think you can set intentions around the new moon in Pisces because it's not an eclipse, but just keep in mind that that new moon in Pisces will crest to a partial lunar eclipse in Pisces later in the year. So yeah, I mean, whatever seeds you plant at the end of or in the beginning of March during the Pisces new moon, it's going to be a little bit, I think, hard to control like where it goes. But you know, this is where we put the cherry on top. Pisces is about faith. So that Pisces new moon, March 10th, you're just going to have to put faith in something that you really feel attached to and driven by a sense of purpose towards, and just like let that bird fly, you know? So if you publish a song on the Pisces new moon, or you pitch to something to Netflix or whatever, you know, it may go somewhere. So with all of that said, and I feel like we've really baked the themes of March. Let's talk about what's coming in the sort of month for each zodiac sign, and just some housekeeping things there. Like, you know, check your rising sign first. The rising sign is literally like, you know, you, and it's the basis of your chart, but don't let other astrologers fool you. You can look at your sun and moon sign for forecasts, because every sign has a relative position to the other. So Virgo is the 8th sign from Aquarius. Therefore, Virgo has an 8th house quality relative to Aquarius. So if you have an Aquarius sun, planets are in Virgo, it's not dissimilar to the 8th house, especially if you're using a whole sign system like me. The opposition is like the 7th house, because we're dealing with people across from you. Opening trine is like the 5th house, because it's like flowing and creative. So I'm not really sure why astrologers don't think about it this way. It's actually quite simple. So when you relativize the position of signs, and so you stop, so like basically stop thinking about like Aries as the first sign. Yes, it is, but it's also the 10th sign relative to Cancer, right? So you know, we need to kind of like stop the misinformation and the lack of sort of imagination, really, or investigation in the astrology community about this. There is absolutely no evidence that the rising sign is the only sign you can use in forecasts. Now, the sun and moon, in my opinion, are obviously the sun and moon are slightly different, because the sun pertains to your self-expression. The moon is more like how you're feeling about things, but the sun and moon and rising are the big three. They're part of you. That's the engine. That's the engine of the chart. Now, you could make forecasts based on your Venus and put your Venus on the ascendant, but that would only pertain to like your values, your relationships, your money. And you could see the household positions, but the house positions all recalibrated to your Venus placement. So again, to all the astrologers watching this, I need you to think a little bit harder here. So let's go into Aries. So for the month of March, and I'm only using, you're just going to see March 25th on the screen, but don't freak out. I'm covering both the new and full moons, which again are any month. We're going to look at the new and full moons, because that's when the seeds for something are planted, and when and when the energy climaxes on the full moon. So for Aries, we're going to start off that Pisces new moon, March 10th. That is in your 10th, or sorry, your 12th house. That's in your 12th house, because it's the 12th sign relative to Aries. So there you go. The 12th house is a very enigmatic position in the chart. So very behind the scenes, very much in solitude, very sort of wrapped up in a nebulous dream world. So Pisces new moon in the 10th, I don't think is going to be necessarily like a big flashy new moon for you. You can use this obviously, but I would put your energy towards something that's going to like reconnect you with the divine, or it's going to inspire you to do some type of humanitarian activity or mission. You know, it's at 20 degrees of Pisces, by the way. Now, the chart ruler, Jupiter, one of the chart rulers, is sextile Saturn from your 12th to your second house. So with Saturn in your 12th, I mean, this is very much about kind of building a bit better, stronger foundation with, as it concerns your mental well-being. So maybe you're working on mental health, but to have Jupiter in the second house, I think is nice, because it's almost like, you know, if you find a strong purpose at this time, or if you put energy into something that makes you feel whole, and that's what Pisces is all about, right? So Pisces is the sign of feeling whole, and that's why I called this video Finding Fulfillment, because we're like trying to seek that wholeness. So if you find that wholeness with your creativity or with the divine, or if you're willing to devote yourself to someone, but really it's about purpose, I think it may boost your financial success. I mean, Jupiter in the second is a good time to attract more money. The other chart ruler, Neptune, almost conjunct the new moon. So you're feeling very, I think, inspired, and you may birth some really interesting ideas. Now, Mercury has just gone into Aries at that point. So, you know, you have a first house Mercury placement there, or Mercury's in your sign. And so I think it's actually a time where your head is kind of getting you know, it's clearing up in some ways, even though you're like, again, tapped into your nebulous spiritual world. I think you can communicate quite well at that time. It's not in its pre-shadow phase yet. We have Uranus square Mars from your 11th to your 2nd. So Mars in the 11th, and even Venus in the 11th. There's some sociability there at the Pisces new moon. So, you know, it's again, you're not like completely alone. So I think that Pisces new moon is like, yeah, birth something spiritual or creative, or even like work on your healing journey. But along the way, I think you will really be enmeshed in communities that can either help you point the way for you towards something that's more exalted, or they can like work with you to manifest this creative project or this spiritual concept. But I think the Libra full moon is a much bigger deal for you. Like honestly, some of the Aries placements watching this video, because I'm an objective astrologer, I'm not going to hype everything up. Some of you might not even really do something big on March 10th. I think you can, but like, don't be disappointed if it's a little bit of like a quiet new moon for you. But it's not going to be quiet, certainly, by the end of March, because there's an eclipse in your 7th house. And you can see that right here on the screen. So anytime you have a lunar eclipse, you know, we're not able to control the outcome, but we are able to control our reactions. So something karmic will come up there, which is allowing you, I think, to let go, ideally, of bad relationships, or to reset alliances where it's like, hey, like maybe we're actually on the same team. And the chart ruler Venus, it's leaving a conjunction, but it's basically there with Saturn in the 12th. So I don't know. I mean, it's possible. It's possible for you to make like very sacrificial commitments to somebody. The 12th house wants to kind of let go. And so Venus Saturn is almost like the pinnacle of that, of saying like, I love this person no matter what, and I'm willing to maybe even get engaged to them or married. I mean, I don't know, like with an eclipse, if I'd recommend like getting engaged at that time, obviously, but I just think that you're seeing a relationship with a different perspective, and it's going to give you the compassion to like really feel for that person. And so it's like either you're forgiving them for something, which is clearing space for that relationship to continue, or you are letting go of somebody finally who's been like just kind of a thorn in your side. Now, keep in mind the South Node is in a yod, right? The South Node is in a yod with Venus and Jupiter, so we'd get a Venus-Jupiter sextile, which on the face of it is nice, but with the South Node yod, it's like, I don't know. I mean, the South Node yacht is kind of like interjecting with a random other energy and saying, like, Venus Jupiter is like, hey, like, I want like to see the positives in this relationship. I want to see how it can work. But Venus Saturn and the South Node yacht is kind of saying, maybe it's a little convoluted though, and you have to work this out. So I think really what this comes down to though is if you're not on the same spiritual quest as someone, then it won't work. That's really what it is. But if you have the same values and you're really aligned on values, then I like it. So that's what's going on. Mars in the 12th, I'm not a fan of. Your sleep is not going to be great probably at the end of March and into April, but kind of have to roll with that. And then Mercury leaving a conjunction with Chiron. You're really speaking your mind there. I think you're speaking and standing up for yourself. So I think you're standing up for yourself, and that is clearing out bad relationships. So again, a big month for Aries in the second half primarily. Now, Taurus, let's talk about you. Pisces new moon, March 10th at 20 degrees of Pisces. That's in your 11th house of friends, social media, groups, politics, innovation. I think that's a nice one. So a Pisces new moon anytime for a Taurus would be a time to set intentions around, again, new group activities, maybe a social media project you want to launch. If you were like interested in politics, like throwing your hat in the ring there. But probably for most of you, it's just like the birth of a new, you know, sort of social group or activity or events, and you just participate in some social event that's really fun. Again, it doesn't always have to be flashy. But the chart ruler is sextile Saturn. That's Jupiter right there. Jupiter in the first, you know, Uranus and Jupiter direct. I think for Tauruses, like ideally, you have some momentum right now. You're thinking about moving or traveling or just changing some things, getting further involved with the community. So this Pisces new moon, I really think that there's some traction here that you're gaining in a community or on social media because of these new dreams that you have and this new optimism. The other chart ruler, Neptune, is almost conjunct the new moon in the 11th. So yet again, feeling sort of this connection. It's really heartfelt, maybe, or spiritual connection with the group. But if you're a Taurus who is not on a good page with one of your friends, maybe you're forgiving a friend there. We also get Mercury going into the 12th. So, being able, maybe being able to channel a little bit. Uranus square Mars, Venus almost leaving that square with Uranus. So you have Mars and Venus in the 10th at the Pisces new moon at the time of that. So, striking really positive connections potentially, but random ones with like professionals and in your industry, climbing the ladder through those connections a little bit, and with those squares to Uranus, like I said, it's a little random, but maybe it's an online connection that helps you boost your career prospects. So expect some of that opportunity. Now the Libra full moon, March 25th. Again, it's an eclipse, lunar eclipse, so not going to be easy for manifesting, but you can control how you react. So what's the domain of life where this is happening? Well, it's in the sixth house. So, the sixth house is really a reset, I think, of, your work. So maybe you have a new career connection in early March that you manifest, and that allows you to change your job or change your routines or the projects you're staffed on. But the sixth house is also health, right? So maybe you're going through a change in your health, and hopefully a good way. You're just getting some perspective on how to make your, make sure you're healthy and reignites that energy within you. The chart ruler Venus is leaving a conjunction with Saturn and Pisces in the 11th. So yeah, some major commitments can be made where suddenly you're responsible for a group or an organization, or you're really establishing a presence online. Maybe you're building a business around your social media. I think it's actually can be quite positive. And maybe even you're just meeting friends who have longevity. You're going to be friends with them for a long time. The South Node, remember, is in a yod, though, with Venus and Jupiter. So Venus-Jupiter sextile can be really nice. It's almost like the friends that you're hanging out with are funneling into your Jupiter. So somehow there's like a connection, a networking event that leads to, a financial opportunity. So that can be nice. But with the yod and the sixth, it's like, don't forget about your responsibilities in your day-to-day. Don't forget about tending to your health. So, maintain good health and be mindful of how to balance out your 9 to 5 and your 5 to 9 or whatever you're doing. And the South Node and the sixth, maybe you can actually change some of the alliances or co-working relationships you have to improve your day-to-day, to make room for something that you're more passionate about. We do have Mars in the 11th at that point. So feeling a lot of motivation maybe to participate in group activities, but just watching out for like conflict. You want to avoid too much conflict on social media or in those friend groups. And then Mercury conjunct Chiron in the 12th. I mean, yeah, you've got to go through some sort of healing there regarding your mental well-being. I think a lot of you are grappling with some maybe trauma, lingering trauma, or some like memories that are not so great, but you want to like you'll be able to dig those out through like meditation or dreams. So pay attention to your dreams in March. They're probably not going to all be there. Some of them might be a little frightening, but I think those dreams are kind of hacking into your subconscious in maybe a good way. You just need to pull out those weeds, and then you're able to catalyze a sort of transformation that way. So let's go to Gemini. Gemini, the Pisces new moon is massive for you. March 10th, the Pisces new moon is at 20 degrees of Pisces in your 10th house. So that's really your calling. What are you doing in the public? What's your vocation? So this could be the birth of a new career, new job, new responsibility, maybe even like birthing a new role as a parent or something. But it's very consequential. And in Pisces, you're launching maybe a more creative project into the world or career, more of a healing sort of career, or like a career as a healer, or maybe you're, making a big impact. Pisces is ripple effects. So you're reaching maybe tons of people. Maybe there's I'm not saying every Gemini will become famous, obviously, but like as Gemini rising, Pisces new moons, I think great times to really inspire people through what you do in your career. The chart ruler, one of them, Jupiter sextile Saturn from the 10th to the 12th. So, with Jupiter in the 12th, these new career prospects may kind of activate a sense of spiritual, fulfillment. So ideally, your career is satisfying you on all phases, like not just monetarily. There has to be more of a reason, a higher calling for that job. And then the chart ruler, other one, Neptune, is pretty much in a conjunction with the new moon in the 10th. So yet again, we're inspiring people. We are, dreaming big. So for Geminis, you can look sort of sky's the limit for Geminis in terms of like what you can manifest and set intentions around. Keep in mind the full moon is an eclipse at the end of March, though, which I'll talk about in a second. But my point with that is whatever seeds you plant, like it's kind of hard to say exactly where they'll go. But I think, with Pisces being about faith, just put faith in your ideals for your career there. Check it with Saturn, make sure it's realistic to some extent, but like definitely dream big, I think. Mercury is in the 11th, so some sociability there. Uranus square Mars from the 9th to the 12th. Mars and Venus in the 9th. Maybe some Geminis were or are recently traveling overseas or long distance. Maybe some Geminis were learning new things in the beginning of March, and learning about new things that are more on the spiritual side with that square to Uranus in the 12th. Or just random impulses to travel somewhere by the water. Sometimes when I see a 12th, 9th house activation, it's like I want to get away for a bit, and especially being near the water to spiritualize. But the headline story there is like Geminis, you can really birth something new in your career. And then the lunar eclipse on March 25th, that's in your 5th house. So I don't mind that. I mean, I I actually kind of like eclipses in the 5th. So maybe letting go and giving up on some kind of creative hobby, but for a lot of you, I think it's resetting your creativity in a different way. And with Venus, the chart ruler in the 10th, next to Saturn, any sort of like creative passions you've had from day one, like age one, I don't know if it was music or dancing or, like whatever you were into from like basically the beginning of your life, maybe you can reincorporate that into your career with Venus conjunct Saturn. So like committing to your creativity differently in your career. With the 5th house there, resetting your perspective on like romance or dating. So maybe there's a date there that really changes your trajectory somehow. But I really do see this as like a reshuffling of your creative gifts and infusing those into your career. The South node again is in a yod with Jupiter and Venus. So I like the Jupiter-Venus sextile between the 10th and the 12th. So again, a more spiritually fulfilling career or, but with the yod in the 5th, it's like, okay, what about me? What about my creative 5th house there? So it's got to be creative and spiritual, which I think is fine. And then the sun and Mercury and all this stuff is in the 11th. So really connecting with an audience with your creativity or a community. And then Mars in the 10th by that point, really taking the reins in your career and like, really stepping up as a leader. So maybe you're starting a new job of your own as an entrepreneur or you're managing people. So now we go to Cancer. The Pisces new moon is in your 9th house. Pisces new moon is in the 9th. And again, this really depends on your chart, obviously. So like, for example, I'm a Cancer rising, but my midheaven is at 19 Pisces. So like the Pisces new moon, that's really a big deal. It's a big deal for me because it's right on my midheaven basically. So, just keep that all in mind. But, but it's still in my 9th house, right? In a whole sign system. So anyways, the Pisces new moon is March 10th, 20 degrees of Pisces in that 9th house. So the 9th house can be, your role as a teacher, your philosophy on life, your travels, your perspectives, your worldview, and higher education. So maybe you're committing to a new educational program. Maybe you're launching courses of your own. Maybe you're committing to a long distance trip. Maybe you're traveling. As a Cancer rising, I'm going to be traveling. I guess not right at that new moon, but sort of in the window of this cycle. So, I think that can be, or booking a trip even would count. Making a big decision around a trip that you had planned. The chart ruler, Jupiter sextile Saturn from the 9th to the 11th. So, really maybe committing to a trip with a group of people or teaching a community or learning with a community. The other chart ruler, Neptune, almost conjunct the new moon in the 9th. So with Neptune in the 9th, sharing spiritual wisdom or gaining spiritual wisdom. And having faith in life. The 9th house Pisces is like, I believe in a higher power and I want to sort of proselytize that. Mercury is now in Aries at that point in the 10th. So some communication happen, a lot of communication happening and activity happening in your career. Uranus square Mars, Venus square Uranus, from the 8th to the 11th. So, a sense there that maybe some big financial decisions are being made regarding social media, regarding something else. Maybe you're co-investing with a group of people or friends into something. Maybe in the 8th house, you're just tapping into your subconscious differently and having some kind of awakening experience in a group. So yeah, that Pisces new moon, I think is, it could be big for you, but I don't necessarily feel that. I think the Libra full moon will be a lot bigger. So any cardinal sign, right? Any cardinal sign is going to feel these eclipses at the end of March or this eclipse. So there's a lunar penumbral eclipse in Libra at 5 degrees of Libra, March 25th. Now, what does that mean? Well, a lot of cancers. I can attest to this from cancers I know. A lot of cancers moved in the middle of October. So like October 14th. I know cancers who literally moved on that day. And on the full moon, there is a resolution or a closure around that situation. So if you had to move temporarily out of someone's place or move away from someone, maybe you're sorting that out at the end of March, or maybe you're realizing, yeah, I really don't want to live with that person or whatever. And so because this is in your 4th house and the sun's in the 10th. So not only is it about potentially moving or settling more firmly into a home, maybe some changes with family. 4th house is all about mothers, caregivers, the home, the family, broadly speaking, and Chiron is up in the 10th. So I know I know a lot of Cancer and Capricorns have been kind of freaked out because of my videos on other platforms about this. But, again, I'm objective. I have to call it like it is. And there are some health challenges there potentially with family members. I know a lot of Cancer and Capricorns who have this right now. They're either like healing trauma from family, so it's more of a psychological thing, or they're literally dealing with like, I'm not necessarily saying family members will pass, but there's some like potential health challenges that have been coming up because Chiron's in the 10th, conjunct the North Node of fate. Now we have the moon on the South Node of the 4th. So maybe some of you will have to take care of a family member. Maybe some of you will just have a healing breakthrough with family. Maybe some of you are just moving homes. Maybe you're just rearranging your home. So with astrology, it's about archetypes, not absolutes. So again, to clear up all the random unnecessary chaos in the astrology world, there's some astrologers that say you can't even make forecasts. You can't even do horoscopes because everyone's chart is different. Those people fail to realize you have a micro, meso, and macro level to everything. So on the micro level, everyone's forecast will be individual to them based on what an astrologer tells them in a one-on-one reading. At a macro level, we have mundane astrology, which is more about sort of, again, the cybersecurity threats I talked about. But at the meso level, there is a third level in the middle, because that's how nuance works. You have a place where, yes, all Scorpios are experiencing some degree of expansion in their relationships because Jupiter and Uranus are in a 7th house aspect to their sign. So I, as an astrologer, can make that claim and feel good about that claim. Similarly, Cancer and Capricorns both have health themes, healing themes coming up right now with their family members. And as I've just explained, it's a hub and spoke model, which I teach in my classes. In the hub, at the hub, you have the actual transit we're talking about, which is Chiron in the 10th or the 4th with the North Node. And in the spoke model, the wheel around it, you have a whole range of meanings. So it could be, again, healing, a breakthrough with your family, psychologically, maybe dealing with a physical health challenge, maybe just changing your home. So again, all these, like, they're not all, but like there's a lot of astrologers out there who like don't believe in horoscopes. And I'm like, what is going on there, right? Like you got to think a little bit harder about this. Like it's not either or. It's not black and white. It's not like either you can do a chart reading or you can make these vastly generic predictions. Like my predictions are exactly specific enough to resonate, but I'm not going to go so far to say that every Cancer rising will have a health issue come up in their family. However, again, maybe a third of you will, and then a third of you will have the home related thing happen. A third of you will have just the general psychological healing breakthrough. So I just want to really just stand up for what I believe in when it comes to making predictions. Like this is how it works. So anyways, we also get at this time Mercury in the 10th again. So a lot of communication with parents or family or communication in your career. Jupiter sextile Venus from the 9th to the 11th, which can be nice, right? So nice. We're like that Venus Saturn conjunction in the 9th is really having a new maybe perspective on commitment, what commitment looks like in a relationship. Maybe traveling with a partner as a way to reaffirm a commitment. With that sextile to Jupiter, though, like maybe I don't know, you're publishing something and somehow like talking to a group of people about that concept, or you're putting energy into groups and communities in a healthy way in the 11th house. But with that yacht in the 4th, it's like, oh, family, remember like where you're living, or remember your obligations to your family. What do you need to let go of at your foundation so that, you can continue to venture forward in these 9th house, 11th house activities. So anyways, let's go on to Leo there. So the Pisces new moon. Sorry, let me advance the rising sign. So Pisces new moon, March 10th at 20 degrees of Pisces. This is your 8th house of the subconscious and shared resources and sort of the taboo and the occulted. So an 8th house new moon can be tricky, but it can be powerful. So maybe you're launching a business, maybe you're going through a therapeutic process of digging into your subconscious. And with Saturn in the 8th, I think a lot of you are making big investment decisions. And the chart ruler Jupiter is sextile Saturn from the 10th to the 8th. So, some of these investment decisions you make can facilitate growth in your career with Jupiter. The other chart ruler, Neptune, is in the 8th, though. So there's probably a sidetrack at least, or maybe that's the main thrust of it, is like, again, meditating on what you need to let go of. What kind of again, trauma do you need to release? How do you need to forgive? You got to forgive someone maybe, or let go of toxic habits or addictions. I think the 8th house can be about those things too, addictions. And maybe like really seeing more clearly like how you're sharing resources with someone financially in a marriage. Maybe letting go of a marriage financially and uncoupling or something. Uranus and Venus, recently or currently square your Mars and Venus square Uranus there from the 7th to the 10th. Mars and Venus square Uranus from the 7th to the 10th is a big deal. So it kind of feels like there's a lot of energy and maybe conflict going into relationships, but like there's there's new connections you have that again are feeding your growth in your career. So like if you're a Leo, capitalize on the Mars Venus transits in the 7th. So you're either like building a new committed relationship with someone, or you're really again in a business sense, like you're just finding people who can really support what you're trying to do in your career. Say there's a technological thing you're adding to your career, maybe you launched an app, or maybe you're just like trying to invest in a tech startup. I don't know, there's a lot of activity there, right? But those relationships I think are really healthy actually for your career growth. So activate those. And maybe that new moon in Pisces is actually like a financial investment. You're attracting investors, or you're again launching your business or something. So I like that. But yeah, in terms of the Libra full moon, March 25th, again, it's a lunar penumbral eclipse, 5 degrees of Libra. In the 3rd house, the 3rd house is a lot about writing, speaking, neighbors, siblings, education. So maybe there's a shift in how you think about maybe what you need to learn more about, or what you want to write about. Creative writing could be a big theme there. Or 3rd house, you're just calling someone and saying, I got to let go of you. I have to break this off. Or, it's just a serious conversation. But I think for a lot of you, it's more like a shift in how what you're learning about, what you're talking about. And the chart ruler Venus is conjunct Saturn, the 8th. So In a lot of cases there, I think you are, I don't know, with Venus Saturn the eighth, it's like to me so much about financial commitments yet again, though. So I think it's like maybe with the third, you're selling something or you're signing a contract. I mean, there could be some big stuff there, even though Mercury's in pre-shadow. I think that's okay. And a lot of ninth house activity. So maybe matriculating at a new institution educationally or teaching something new. Mars going into the eighth. Yeah, I mean, Mars in the eighth is a little tricky. Maybe some disputes about finances or some intense experiences. But like the eighth house is really like showing you like your shadow side too. But I really think to me, it's like you're merging resources with someone financially. Business partners, that would be one way to think about it. And then keep in mind the South Node is in a yod with Venus and Jupiter here. The Venus Jupiter sextile is positive. So again, the financial decisions in the eighth can feed some kind of, I don't know, career growth and success with Jupiter in the 10th. But the yod in the third is saying, maybe you got to like kind of let go of some other old business partner, or you have to have a tough conversation with someone, or you have to just like write a contract or whatever. So, I mean, you have to be careful with contracts, I think. There's just something a little tricky to me about this yod with the South Node, because I sometimes experience the third as like, we're communicating, it's paperwork, it's appointments. It can be, I think, some of the fine print of these contracts. And I would just kind of double check it. But again, for others, it's like more like, I don't know, I'm just like launching a course or I'm writing something exciting. So anyways, let's go on to Virgo. So Virgo's got the Pisces new moon in your seventh. So any mutable sign, right? The Pisces new moon will be significant because it's in an angular house or in an aspect to the sign that represents an angular house. Because again, there are connections between the aspects and the houses, which I don't know why other astrologers don't think about it that way, but it's fairly obvious. So whether you're a Virgo sun, moon, or rising, you've got the Pisces new moon in a seventh house aspect to your sign. And the new moon is the birth of something new. And what is it a birth of? Well, in the seventh house, it's a birth of a new relationship. Again, I don't want to see anyone in the comments complaining that I'm already dating somebody. It's like, I don't care. It could be a friend. It could be a business partner. We don't have to make this dramatic. Doesn't mean you're breaking up with someone because you already have a relationship. If you say, I don't want relationships, then you have to work on yourself there, because I think if you're a human being, you need to be a little bit more connected. But obviously watch astrology videos every once in a while you're on your own. But anyway, so the new moon in the seventh can be a very devotional relationship to somebody. The chart ruler Jupiter is sextile Saturn. Jupiter in the ninth, Saturn in the seventh. Maybe there's a trip that you took recently, or you are taking a trip there that gives you this like really solid perspective on like who you actually want to commit to, you know. And Saturn can make tough decisions there. So some of you are getting engaged or married, and others are separating from somebody. So big time decisions there with the Pisces new moon. And so, yeah, it doesn't always have to be the beginning of a relationship. It could be the end of one, or clearing space for a new relationship. The other chart ruler, Neptune, almost conjunct the new moon in the seventh. So, you could really find a soulmate or someone who's aligned with you spiritually. Or again, if you're already in a relationship, it could be someone who's just a creative business partner or a friend who has similar values to you. Mercury and Aries in the eighth, means that, you're focused on, maybe finance along the way, but I don't think that's really the thrust of it. We have Venus and Mars square Uranus from the sixth. So with Aquarius being the sixth sign from Virgo, being in a sixth house relationship with Virgo, Mars and Venus in the sixth means I think there's a lot of buzz and activity with coworkers and with your day job. But square Uranus in the ninth, it's like maybe you're traveling suddenly for work. I mean, that would be the most likely. You're asked to fly somewhere for a conference or travel with your coworkers, and maybe that's exciting. But yeah, I think that Pisces new moon is really bringing in some strong connections for you. Now, the Libra full moon is a lunar penumbral eclipse, right? At March 25th at 5 degrees of Libra, which you can see here. I mean, I think this is a big deal, even though the second house is not in a clear relationship with the ascendant, and it is in a semi-sextile relationship with Virgo, in a way. It's still big because the second house is your finances, and Venus is the chart ruler in the seventh. So, you could be having a big change in your salary. Not necessarily saying bad, but it could be a change in salary, overhauling your values even. You could also be, with Venus Saturn in the seventh. I mean, maybe there's a side thing there where like a sidetrack, or maybe this is the main story. It's like, I don't know, maybe you are committing to somebody more deeply, more firmly as a business partner, as a friend, or as a romantic partner. And it's because suddenly your values have changed and you found someone who is aligned on values. Mars in the seventh means there's some conflict in relationships though as well, but also motivation to start them. So, I think for Virgos, March is one of the biggest months for you this year. I mean, it's really about establishing these significant connections, one-on-one relationships with people. And with Jupiter and Uranus in the ninth, maybe some exciting trips though along the way. So now we're going to go into the second half of the zodiac. We're going to talk about Libra. So Libra, you've got the Pisces new moon March 10th at 20 degrees of Pisces in your sixth house of daily activities, health, fitness, coworkers, and daily work. The chart. So anytime you have a new moon in the seventh, could be manifesting some type of new fitness routine that you're adopting, I guess. You could be striking a connection with new coworkers. You could be starting a new job, or your day-to-day is just being rearranged a little bit, your schedule. And the chart ruler Jupiter sextiles Saturn from the 8th to the 6th. So, I mean, it's a bit of a strange sort of sextile there in a way, because the 8th to the 6th it can be a little, again, it's not like clearly connected to the ascendant, and in this case Libra, but with Saturn the 6th, I think a lot of you are experiencing some reality checks with like how you're managing your health or how you're working on projects. But with the sextile to Jupiter, commitments you make towards health or work can improve the eighth house, which is actually about money and finance and investments and shared resources. So I don't know, maybe something about your daily activities changing is helping maybe your marriage and maybe the finances in that marriage or something. So I think that could be good. The other chart ruler Neptune is in the sixth, conjunct the new moon in Pisces, and I don't know. I mean, that could be like more creative activities in your work, or maybe you're working on something with Pisces being about healing. Maybe you're working in a healing sort of modality all of a sudden, or you're finding some kind of purpose, right? A higher purpose in your career. So I think that could be good. And then Saturn, again, like with the other thing with the eighth, it's not just about investments. It could be shadow work, and like Jupiter, Uranus in the eighth. Sudden epiphanies, awakenings can definitely happen. Sudden changes in finances, though, can also happen. And then Mars and Venus are in the fifth at the time of the Pisces new moon. So Mars and Venus in the fifth, square Uranus in the eighth means, you could find an innovative or creative way to monetize something. To monetize something creative. So for Libras, I think it continues to be a creative time. So, maybe you're working with people who can help you manifest a record deal, or, maybe you're just selling your music or selling your artwork on Etsy or something. Like that's the feeling of that. And then maybe some of you are going on dates even that are kind of exciting, and stimulating in a way towards your subconscious. But again, anytime you have a new moon in the sixth, and with the activations to the eighth, like these are not really signs that have a direct relationship with Libra. So I'm going to focus on the eclipse now. The lunar eclipse in Libra, March 25th, massive for Libras, obviously. So it's really your eclipse, And so for you, by the end of March, you're really looking to let go of, any tendencies that enabled bad, unhealthy relationships. So you're just getting rid of those things. You're seeing how you've deluded yourself maybe in a relationship, and feeling more firmly solid on your own, self-reliant with the North Node in Aries. And so, yeah, this eclipse could be the end of a relationship, or it's like a better relationship with yourself that calls in the right person. So I'm not saying that's all about endings for Libras. Like an end is really the beginning of something else. So again, another mistake astrologers make. Like full moons are not just endings, and new moons are not just beginnings. Every beginning is also an ending, and vice versa. It's all cyclical. So again, don't think that, oh, we're gonna break up, or my relationship will never look the same. Could be like you're breaking up with the bad part of yourself. You're breaking up with the toxic version of yourself. You're breaking up with the shadow side, and your partner really appreciates that. They're breathing a sigh of relief here. Or yes, maybe you are breaking up, but it's because, again, that relationship wasn't right for you. But the first house, it's really your self-expression. I mean, it's really you, right? It's you. And so it could just be like you're changing how you present yourself to the world or how you think about yourself. And maybe it's not directly correlated with a relationship in your life. So again, changing the relationship to yourself could be the key there. And thereby you welcome a new partnership eventually. The chart ruler of Venus, though, is in the 6th, conjunct Saturn. So I'd be surprised if there's not something related to like coworkers or work or health in the mix here. So like, I don't know, maybe as you change your outlook on life, you change how you express yourself, you change things about you. I don't know, like maybe that will change the things you want to commit to in your job or the job you want to have. So I think for Libras, there is something financial going on here. Like it is really, again, it could be about business partners, but it could even be about like your career and your path in life. And all of this is changing at the same time, changing something about your health even. So it's like you're going through this healing journey where it's like, I'm feeling more self-reliant, and therefore I'm capturing the light within me. I'm living more healthily, and I'm through all of that. Again, I'm drawing in the right person. So I can't stress that enough. Libra is like, this is one of your big eclipse stories here. And keep in mind there's a solar eclipse again in Libra in October. So it's not the end of the story, but it's because I went through eclipse season as a Scorpio 2022, 2023, and I can tell you and it's not like one single eclipse tells the whole story. They're each like parts or chapters. So let's go on to Scorpio. Speaking of Scorpios, you have the Pisces New Moon March 10th in your 5th house of play, joy, romance, creativity. So Pisces New Moons are always a great time for Scorpios to manifest or set intentions around something that is related to their creative works. So a new project, a new song, a performance, or to go on a date maybe with somebody, to just express yourself creatively. The chart ruler Jupiter is sextile Saturn, and from the 5th to the 7th. So any creative activities or investments, or even any dates you go on, I don't know, they're just like either the creative stuff is attracting like these people into your life. Like maybe you're finding your crew through creative activities, or I don't know, maybe you're going on a date with somebody who has long-term potential, or maybe you're just like co-creating with someone who is in the same field as you. So like if I am an astrologer, maybe I start working with another big astrologer around this Pisces New Moon, which is March 10th, by the way. I'm just showing the screenshot of the eclipse right now. The other chart ruler, Neptune, being in the 5th, close to that new moon, is going to further vivify your creative ambitions, which I like. And then Mars and Venus kind of finishing up passage through the 4th house, because Aquarius is the 4th sign relative to Scorpio. So for Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising, making sort of these big decisions, maybe to move or move in with someone or move away from someone. So a little unstable there, maybe. But Scorpios with Pluto there now, there's some big changes happening in your family, right? And like, again, we're talking about archetypes, not absolutes, but like a lot of Scorpios, and this actually happened to me, like right when Pluto went into to Aquarius, like, my mother was talking to me about like wills, and it's not that she's dying. It's just like She just wants to sort that stuff out. And I'm like, that's like how Pluto works in the fourth. So it goes into the fourth. And I'm not a Scorpio rising, by the way. So this is proof that my sort of relative house system actually works, right? So like with all Scorpios, with Pluto being in the fourth house relationship to Scorpios, all Scorpios for the next 20 years are going to have key moments, but especially this year because of the ingress, they're going to have key moments where property is either sold, bought, family finances change. And yes, maybe a plutonic death in the family can happen for some people, but not everybody, obviously. That depends on your chart. But, you know, with Pluto in the fourth, like even secrets coming up through the family. But anyway, so Mars and Venus in the fourth, square Uranus in the seventh, like making sort of these random decisions to like move with someone or not. So you have to like anticipate that a little bit. But again, any creative investments I think pay off here, and they attract like really gifted people in your life into your life, or maybe financially beneficial people. But now let's go to the eclipse. So lunar eclipse in Libra in the 12th house. I don't know. Not the, again, not a great house to have a moon, or like an eclipse, but it could be letting go of a relationship that has past life implications. Maybe you're finally cutting ties with someone you've had a twin flame karmic link with forever and ever. You keep going through cycles like that. Whatever you think about twin flames, I'm not really trying to highlight that concept, but just this idea of like, we're going through cycles with somebody. We're finally going to purge that kind of thing. Or maybe you're, changing your approach to how you channel or how you connect with your spirit guides in the 12th house, or how you meditate, how you balance out your sort of mental well-being or whatever. Chart ruler Venus conjunct Saturn in the fifth. So could be some big time creative commitments, could be also some, there could be some long-term. Yeah, I think it's mostly creative there, but like maybe there's a date you go on and some kind of romantic scenario that has long-term potential to it. Venus sextiles Jupiter, but the yacht in the 12th is sort of saying, hey, what about this past thing or commitment? So like it's almost like there's a romantic spark here with Jupiter in the 7th. Like, I don't know, it's either a romantic spark or creative opportunity. But the South node in the 12th is like, hey, like don't forget about, I don't know, this karmic relationship that you're still hung up on, or don't forget about your spiritual responsibilities. And so, that's the awkwardness of the odd. But you could argue it's almost a boomerang with, I guess, right, if the North Node's opposition. So, maybe it's a boomerang, but, I don't know. I'm just thinking about it as a yacht, but I guess you could call it a boomerang throughout this video. So if you go back, I mean, yeah, maybe there's some momentum having the North Node in opposition, but yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I guess it technically would be a boomerang, which is again a yacht with an opposition. So you could include the North Node in this, but I still think it's awkward, right? A boomerang has a little bit more like momentum to it because of the opposition, but it's still slightly awkward, I think, with that sort of in conjunct, right? So yeah, let's go on to Sag. Um, so Sag, you have a Pisces new moon in your fourth house. That will definitely influence you because the fourth house is really your home, family foundation. March 10th at 20 Pisces. This could be a move, right? Moving homes, or it could be a new dynamic with your family. It could be a new, just like home project you're starting. And the chart ruler Jupiter is sextiling Saturn from the 4th to the 6th. So, or sorry, yeah, the chart ruler Jupiter, sextile Saturn. So Jupiter in the 6th sort of gives you perspective on your health and your routines and yeah, all that stuff. But I think with the sextile to Saturn, maybe there's like some commitments you're making to living somewhere or doing, yeah, like the new home you live in could support like your work schedule. It could be more conducive to like a healthy work schedule or a healthier life. The other chart ruler Neptune is in the 4th as well. So maybe this motivation to move closer to the ocean or the water, or to have a more spiritual foundation. The 4th house can be our foundation. And then your Mars and Venus continuing to be in the 3rd, square Uranus in the 6th. So Mars and Venus in the 3rd for Sag, continue to do like creative writing, maybe selling, presenting, contract negotiations all through the beginning of March. But with the square to Uranus, maybe there's new skills you're picking up that you can put into your job. You're learning about technology. So I think for Sagittarius, you have a big opportunity here to like learn about how to use like AI or some other tech platform right now. And it's all feeding success, I think, in your career. And so, yeah. But I think for a lot of you, it's a big shift in terms of like how you feel committed or not committed to your family. So like Saturn is about commitments. So you have to kind of make a decision, I think, as a Sag in March about whether or not you want to stay or go. And how, again, how much effort you're supposed to be putting into your family, and are they responsible for themselves? And then the Libra full moon is March 25th. It's an eclipse, and it's in the 11th house. 11th house is friend groups, social media, and so on. I think the 11th house can be, with an eclipse there, a big reset in your friendships, right? And that may come about because you moved, right? The Saturn Venus conjunction in the fourth may be like, okay, I finally invested in a property or with someone, maybe a partner or family. And maybe by moving somewhere, I've changed my friendships. I've had to let go of some friendships. Maybe I'm experiencing a dramatic change in my social media there, my political participation. The South Node and the North Node, I guess, being in a yod/boomerang with Jupiter and Venus. Venus, Jupiter, the sextile is nice once again. So really supportive, expansive relationships, vis-a-vis. There's kind of a nice connection between like family, maybe introducing you to like people who can get you a job, or maybe your new home life is somehow supporting your work routines. But then the yod here in the boomerang, I guess, is North and South nodes saying, hey, but like, you've got some other creative ambitions here with the North node in the fifth. It's like, yeah, maybe some things are going well with family suddenly, or maybe some things are going well at work, but like, I can't forget about the momentum I have with the North node in the fifth creatively. So keep committing to your creative hobbies. Mars going into the fourth, though, at the end of March, can kick up some conflict and dirt, at the home or with the family. So make sure you give yourself enough space at that time. But again, like a big, the 11th house could even be a big performance, but it's really like, to me, again, it's that reset in those communal environments. So for Capricorns, pretty big month for you. First of all, we have a Pisces New Moon, March 10th in the third house of daily communication, siblings, neighbors, local travel. So March 10th, you could be traveling somewhere locally. You could be starting to write something creatively, starting a new communications project. And then with Saturn in the third, maybe having a pretty serious conversation with someone about your relationship prospects. But for others, you're committing to maybe an educational program, and committing to like mastering a certain subject. There's the Jupiter-Venus sextile. Jupiter in the fifth can be expansive romantically, or creatively. So again, like creative writing, I kind of like that concept, or creative communication. And Neptune's in the third. So, some, again, creative writing ideas could come in. And then, Venus and Mars are still in the second, square Uranus in the fifth. So, putting a bit of a focus on like, money and making money and activating, maybe getting a new salary or pushing for more money. And, maybe that's when you're sort of and maybe you're even getting paid for something you've done creatively. I don't know, like maybe you are in a commercial or something and you monetize that. So you're finding new ways to monetize things. But it could even just be, again, like suddenly getting a new offer or something, or having a sudden change in your salary. But the bigger story somehow is actually the Libra full moon. The eclipse March 25th is in your 10th house, or in the 10th sign relative to Cap. So some of you will be letting go of a career. Some of you will be changing your career quite dramatically there. Some of you will have a big fallout with a parent or an authority figure. Some of you will change your relationship with your parents or family. And with Chiron in the fourth, passing the North Node recently, but I talked about this for Cancers in the other chapter. Capricorns also may have some health issues come up within their family, or they are healing a challenged dynamic with their family. But with Mars and Venus conjunct in the third, and Venus being the chart ruler, I see like big time commitments in terms of like to a creative project that's or a communications project or a book or yeah, it could be a big deal. But also talking with someone about your relationship. So you may have like really serious phone calls, text messages, discussions with people about, again, the viability of a relationship, but with the odds and the boomerang basically between the third, fifth, fourth, 10th, and fourth, it's like, yeah, I can see how there's new opportunities here to date other people or go on more dates, or the third, I don't know, maybe you're dating someone who lives close by to you all of a sudden in a different way. But then with like your south node, fourth, and north node in the fourth and 10th, it's like there's just some kind of like career obligation that's kind of like disrupting some of these desires for like romance and all that stuff. So it's I think it's a complex time. But so put energy into your creativity, but don't forget about your career obligations, essentially, is how that one goes, in my opinion. But again, major changes in the career. And by the way, like for Capricorns, sorry to go back. Yeah. For Capricorns, major changes as a parent. So some Capricorns maybe are having children, and so they're stepping into this role as a parent. It's Jupiter in the fifth, by the way, as well. Jupiter in the fifth can be about birth of a child, I think, sometimes. So let's go to Aquarius. Aquarius, you have the Pisces New Moon March 10th at 20 degrees of Pisces in your second house of money, natural abilities, self-worth. So for you, the new moon, March 10th would be a good time to set intentions around or manifest some type of like, new income stream, to focus on creative natural abilities, spiritual or psychic natural abilities, and the chart ruler, Jupiter, sextile Saturn, Jupiter in the fourth. Maybe you're getting more money so you can move. Maybe you're moving for a job. Those are some of the combinations. And the other chart ruler is Neptune in the second as well. So seeing more of like changing your values, right? Realigning your values towards something more spiritual or creative. And Mars and Venus still in Aquarius. So for Aquarius is like the beginning of the month, I think should be pretty good. Like you're feeling like you have the vitality with Mars, the sociability with Venus, but square Uranus in the fourth. Maybe you're inviting people over to your house. Maybe you're having parties. Maybe you're moving suddenly with someone. I mean, that can also happen, similar to Scorpios, actually. But let's talk about the lunar eclipse, though. So there's now, lunar eclipse, Libra full moon, March 25th at 5 degrees of Libra. And this is activating your ninth house and third house, really in a big way. And the ninth house is really about philosophy, long distance travel, higher education. So for Libras and higher court system, actually, like the law. And so for Aquarius it's very much a change in maybe where you want to travel, what you want to learn about in your educational studies, how you view the world entirely, your role as a teacher may even change. And the ninth house to me can be like publishing. So if you've got like a big writing project, there could be a big change in momentum with that writing project. And the chart ruler Venus is conjunct Saturn in the second. So for many of you, though, I see this eclipse actually as a new income, or you're committing to a new financial plan. And with the ninth house activation, maybe it's taking you somewhere new. Again, I'm just seeing like the possibility of like traveling or moving or shifting location for Aquarius is for the sake of a new job. Doesn't have to be that extreme, but or literal, but it can be. And with Mars in the seconds, really feeling motivated to earn more, make more. And then finally, we have that sextile between Venus and Jupiter, which can be really positive for, again, making more money, and that supports you living in a bigger house or apartment, or you can just afford some of the luxuries of life. But then the south node, north node in the boomerang of that opposition there is sort of beckoning you towards, I don't know, a little bit more of like an educational perspective on things. Like, so it's like, again, maybe the job is like going well, and maybe, you know, again, you get that you put yourself in that new environment, but you know, don't get too hung up on money, money, money. Mars in the second can be a little, I think, hedonistic. And so give yourself time for some of these more like philosophical, cerebral communications endeavors. And obviously don't forget you have Pluto in Aquarius right now. So there's a whole, you know, backdrop of like, you know, transformation is the only way forward kind of vibe. And now we have Pisces. So of course, the Pisces new moon, March 10th at 20 Pisces will be massive because it's in your first house. So anytime a new moon's in the first, really initiating a new journey for yourself. That could be the way you express yourself, the way you look at yourself, the way you work, the job you have, the relationships you're in. And so it should be refreshing, ultimately. The chart ruler Jupiter is sextile Saturn. Saturn the first, you know, is telling you to make big commitments throughout the year and next year. But Jupiter in the third is giving you a creative, or I shouldn't say that. It's giving you a communicative outlet for things. Like Jupiter in the third is giving you access to, you know, the written word. You're writing a lot, you're podcasting, writing a newsletter, you're just communicating, speaking quite fluidly. And I've always talked about this throughout the last year or so, but there's genius insights coming in for Pisces when Jupiter's in Taurus. So that sextile is supportive of like professional commitments are supporting these communications endeavors somehow. Venus and Mars in the 12th still, square Uranus in the third. A little awkward, I think, when Venus and Mars in the 12th, because your sleep can be disrupted, your relationships can feel a little murky or behind the scenes. But square Uranus in the third, spiritual wisdom is coming in, and you're putting that onto the page, or you're communicating about it. So I think that's exciting. And then we have a Libra full moon, right? The lunar eclipse in the 8th house on March 25th at 5 degrees of Libra. Lunar eclipse in the 8th, very mysterious, right? Very dark, very inaccessible, very impenetrable in ways. But this could really, I think, reset or reestablish your financial picture, the investments you want to make, like, you know, any debt you're trying to pay off could, you know, you may be paying it off finally. How you link up with someone financially in a marriage may change. Maybe you're, you know, connecting bank accounts or uncoupling them, even. But the chart ruler of Venus is conjunct Saturn in Pisces. So, you know, for you, it is probably about relationships and finances. So either you're committing to a new job or new salary, or you're committing to somebody, or you maybe are breaking up. I mean, I could see how some Pisces, to be honest, would be going through like really messy divorces at this time, where it's like we're sorting out possessions in the 8th house, who owns what and who gets the dresser, who you know, what's the financial picture of that divorce. So I think for some Pisces it's not easy per se as a time period, but if you're not really in that position, you know, if you're not married or you're not worried about your marriage, then you know, I think it's actually fine. I think it could be really just, again, some financial breakthroughs that really change your investment picture, and hopefully in a good way. Because like Saturn, Venus is like really goals oriented about money in a lot of ways. And Mars is in Pisces at that point. So I think you have the courage and the gusto to make the right decisions. But don't forget about the boomerang. So the Venus Jupiter sextile is nice, but don't forget about the North and South node in the middle of all of this, the inconjuncts. So, and by the way, like when I'm looking at this time period, I've advanced so far past the new moon that you're not actually seeing that anymore, right? So the eclipse, it looks like the eclipse is, but let me go backwards a day to show you what I really mean there with that yod and that boomerang, because it doesn't look like it makes any sense right now, but it really does. So if I was to go back, now you see it, you know, 16 degrees for Venus, 15 degrees for the North and South node, 15 degrees for Jupiter. You know, I'm counting that for sure as a boomerang. So it's like, yeah, I mean, you know, there could even be like a publishing deal if I see Jupiter in the third, Venus in the first. So I know that doesn't apply to a lot of people, but like, you know, maybe there's some type of like creative contract, you know, a contract related to creative work you're signing. But the North and South node in the second, the 8th is like, oh, but maybe I'm not, like, I'm a little surprised by the financial offer of it or financial impact of it. And I want to do all these creative communicative things, but I have to think about the money. So like big time changes in your investing strategy are coming. So anyways, thank you. What did we talk about today? This is an important part, so stick around for this. You know, and I'm channeling as I conclude every YouTube video like this, because I'm kind of like just processing everything I've talked about, you know. And you know, March to me is really just the other side of that. It's like the bridge from October of last year. So whatever was going on in your life middle October last year, there will be some closure to those situations by the end of March. And with all the Aquarius energy in the beginning of March still, again, a lot of excitement, a lot of social activity for many of you, especially Aries. But you know, with during that Pisces season, don't get too down on yourself. Like I'm just being honest. Like I think a lot of you, when the sun is going through Pisces, are going to feel, you know, a little somber at times and feeling like, oh my gosh, like all these mistakes I made while Neptune's been in Pisces, all these delusions I bought into, all these delusional activities, toxic activities, addictions. Like, look at where it's led me. You know, Saturn and Pisces can feel a little bit like woe is me and self-pity, and I don't want you to go there, right? Like, I want you to think about with Saturn, okay, yeah, I'll take a good, cold, hard look at myself and my habits, but like again, as I've said in many videos, nihilism is the last place you want to be. Nihilism is the greatest threat to humanity, in my opinion. So you have to fight back against that by using this Aquarius energy to find like-minded people who maybe have gone through similar healing experiences with Chiron in the North Node recently passing. You know, people who have a similar thirst and longing for purpose, and you're finding that community and building that foundation, and then eventually launching creative project, a spiritual practice, and that's going to really get you through Pisces season. And relationships of all types are firming up here, and you're really going to see. So if you're a little confused right now about like where a relationship is for you, don't worry. Don't like have patience. You'll know for sure by the end of March where a relationship stands. So and if you want a reading from me, I still have some spots open in May. So I'm sold out until I think early May, but I have plenty of spots open still in middle and late May. And I can look at your chart and get down to that micro level for you. I talk about parents, past lives, the fixed stars, and I go to way more depth, honestly, than I do in any of these YouTube videos. Because I can talk about things that are, again, I can see all the aspects in your chart and go way deeper. These horoscopes, again, are meant to be archetypal. Um, anyways, I'm also doing a retreat in Norway in July. There's still time to sign up for that, about 2 weeks left to sign up for that. So do so very soon. I have a class on relationships March 4th. Sign up for that. It's only $50. And if you're a paid Substack subscriber, it's only $35. And yeah, follow me on all the other channels too. I've got a really good following on TikTok and Instagram. So catch me there because there's a little bit more day-to-day stuff going on. But I appreciate you all, and I hope you have a great March. So take care.